Good morning, people. This is wow, that was perfect timing there.
Perfect
Mr. Felix
timing.
Sharp.
Why is my name changed on the screen? Who changed my name?
Yeah, your name's not on the screen, Felix.
It's not popping up for me. I don't know.
Well, Colin can obviously see it.
Oh, I see it down at the bottom.
I see it down at the bottom.
It doesn't matter. This is off-screen stuff here, gentlemen. This is the Tailgate brought to you by campus2canton.com. I'm here with a great crew this morning. We've got Jared, a live correspondent on Georgia's campus here this morning. We've got Colin Decker. We've got Felix Sharp, a true wild card whenever he makes appearances here. On this morning's version of the Tailgate, guys, we're going to give you the usual, the start sits. We're going to give you some prize picks plays. We're going to bring Alfred on later to do some betting. And then we're just going to talk college football. If you guys are in the comments, thanks for hopping in here with us. Good morning. Good morning. I see a few of you guys in here already. You guys got any drop or start sit questions? Feel free to shoot them in there.
Should Texas A&M have Jimbo Fisher killed or pay the $95 million buyout? That's my question.
Many are asking this.
I bet we try to fire the offensive coordinator first.
Are they not the same person?
Probably.
Therein lies the issue at Texas A&M. We'll talk about them here in a minute, guys. But welcome in again, everybody here. We've had some games played so far this week, and actually we had a weird one that was postponed from last weekend, this SMU UCF game. Colin, you watched this one. Give us a rundown what went on in this game.
Yeah, so I mean, SMU jumped out to a bit of a lead at the start there, and then their offense just kept stalling, and they couldn't keep it going after the first couple drives there. If you started anybody from SMU outside of Rashee Rice, I feel bad for you. Tanner Mordecai did not look good in this one. I think that it's partially because UCF's defense looked really, really good, and partially because Tanner Mordecai just kind of faded at the end of last season too. So that may just be who he is at this point. 295 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, 12 fantasy points. Not a good showing from him. Preston Stone gets in the game and looks pretty solid there. That's going to be something I think to monitor as the season goes on, because SMU's 2-3 at this point. Do they make the change? Because we heard that was a very close battle all off season. On the other side, UCF, their offense started a little bit slow, but then John Reese Plumlee got cooking there. 316 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. Didn't bring his normal threat through the ground. Usually, he's more than 27 yards, but still a nice day for him. Isaiah Bowser, most Isaiah Bowser line I think I've ever seen. 62 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then Ryan O'Keefe had a really nice day as well. He had a really long touchdown run down the sideline, and then Javon Baker also had a really nice day. So if you started somebody from UCF, very happy. Started somebody from SMU, not so happy.
I think that probably nails it. The Rashee Rice, you didn't really talk about him, Colin. Had himself a nice day if you're playing pure PPR here. 12 catches, 122 yards. Jared,
fumble for anybody else doing math on that one.
Javon Baker has really become kind of a target king there at UCF. How do you feel about him for CFF purposes as our token CFF expert on the panel here today?
I mean, clearly he has become one of GRP's favorite targets, no doubt about that. And he's kind of kept that consistent week to week. I believe last week he had a pretty rough go of it, but even so, like every even top receivers have hiccups here and there. I think he's absolutely a CFF asset down the line. Definitely somebody that you could probably play any given week, especially now that they're in conference play, and somebody you could be pretty confident in, especially in a PPR league.
And O'Keefe, is he kind of touchdown dependent? I mean, he gets like carries, but he doesn't always get the targets.
I mean, yeah, he's a little bit rougher than Baker is, but I saw somebody drop him in one of my deeper dynasty leagues the other day, and first thing I did as soon as I saw that he was dropped, I was going to pick him up because he's still an asset in my opinion. Yeah, he's a little touchdown dependent. Yes, like I said, he's not as consistent week to week as like Baker is, but he still clearly has that top end production that you want out of him. Because again, just look at this past week's game: 6 receptions, I believe, 117 yards through the air. That's like, even if he didn't get the touchdowns, that's still a pretty good day. Even if you're in a even if you're in, or especially if you're in a PPR league. So I think he's still an asset.
Felix, do you have any thoughts on this game? I mean, Preston Stone, Colin, you were just talking about maybe seeing him because this season may be lost for SMU. I mean, set up for the future. You think that's a good play, Felix, for them?
Well, if I remember correctly, Rhett Lashley actually recruited Preston Stone, so they have a pre-existing relationship. He's a player that we wanted to see for a while here. I actually think Tyler Van Dyke could be a landing spot, or SMU could be a landing spot for Tyler Van Dyke, given that existing relationship. But what are they? What's SMU's record at this point?
2-3.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if they lose another one at some point down the line, I think we're going to see Preston Stone. 2-3 isn't that terrible. I mean, they still got bowl game aspirations, but I don't know. We might see them down the line.
Yeah, bowl game aspirations seems low for maybe what their initial goal was, though. You know, maybe that shifted, but definitely not what we thought they could be. Let's hop into start sits here, guys. Let's just go right into that. There's some injuries starting to pile up. We're starting to get bye weeks. Like people probably need a little bit of assistance with this week. I need a little bit of assistance with this. I know Felix probably does too, with Kian Williams on all of his rosters.
Well, that was my start. He was my start for this week.
Felix is scrambling. He's like, how many other names do I have here that I can go through? Yeah. So, Jared, do you want to kick us off here? Who are you starting this week?
Yeah, I got 3 names for you guys. First of all, let's go with Tyler Scott, wide receiver out of Cincinnati. He's going up against USF this week, and if you watch anything from USF this year, they their defense has been horrendous. They, I think, are one of the worst G5 teams in the country right now. And again, CJ Johnson just absolutely lit them up last week. They've been giving up big points to top end wide receivers all year long, and Tyler Scott is that top outside wide receiver for Cincinnati. I expect a big day out of him. Next name I'm going to throw up here, everybody's favorite running back to talk about this week. It feels like I'm going to start Quinshon Judkins, running back out of Ole Miss. Quite frankly, I'm starting both him and Zach Evans. They have one of the best rushing attacks in the country, and you have to have some level you have to have at least a certain level of defense in order to slow that down remotely, and Vanderbilt just straight up does not have that. Both of those guys will eat today. And then last but not least, I will throw out here Mr. Brad Roberts, running back out of Air Force, going up against Utah State. Utah State's rush defense is horrendous. And quite frankly, I have underestimated Mr. Roberts one too many times this year already, and he should eat big time against the Aggies today.
Interesting. Yeah, Tyler Scott, do you have any worry about them just kind of grinding this clock out on the ground? I mean, they kind of did that last week. Corey Kiner and a couple other guys there they rotate through.
I mean, it's certainly a possibility, but again, if Scott, I mean, they're still going to be passing the ball around at least to start this game. You don't really see that until you build the big lead, and Tyler Scott's going to be a big part of building that early lead.
Gotcha. Okay, so then you like those guys as starts this week. Any names
Yes.
that you are avoiding, if you can?
Yeah, Evan Hall, running back at a Northwestern. Man, I was excited about him coming into, or at least after the first couple of weeks of the season. I thought he was going to be one of those guys that could be matchup proof, and he has been on a skid recently against some tougher competition in the Big Ten. And quite frankly, Wisconsin, for all their faults right now, they still have a pretty good defense, and I'm not trusting Evan Hall currently to produce again this week. Devin Achane, running back out of Texas A&M. That Texas A&M offense is looking rougher and rougher each week. Max Johnson's now out. We're back to Haynes King. And quite frankly, Alabama is in a revenge game mode. They are looking to shut this A&M offense down as much as they can. And Achane, as good as I think of a running back he is, I don't think he can carry the entire team on his back. He'll be in for a rough day.
Are we on Wegman watch this week officially? Can we say that?
I don't think so. I really think if we didn't already get him starting today, that Jimbo is just sticking with Haynes and Max Johnson for right now, and then waiting for later on Weigman.
Gotcha. Okay. I never really know with Jimbo.
You never really know, but I feel like it's an objectively bad idea to throw your freshman QB out against Alabama.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. And then there's a target king that you're sitting this week. What the heck?
Cam Camper, wide receiver out of Indiana. Dude's been getting 15 targets per game. Problem is, he only catches about 55% of them. Now, granted, that's still about 6-7 receptions a game, so you can't cry too much about that. Problem is, he's going up against Michigan, who's the top 10 passing defense in the country this week, and he is coming off of an illness. Again, some of these guys, it takes a little while to get them back into full shape after they've had an illness. I'm not taking the chance this week. Too many things pointing in the direction that this could be a bad week for Camper. I'm just going to go ahead and sit him.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that Indiana offense we thought maybe could be doing some things, but down DJ Matthews, down Cam Camper the past couple weeks, they don't really have another guy beyond them. Colin, let's come over to you here. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Do you want to tell anybody about the whatever's hanging out on your upper lip there? Or do you just want to move on to your start sits? That's a sit. Colin's mustache is a sit this week.
No, we're starting mustaches. I mean, a lot of people grow those for Movember, prostate cancer awareness and all that kind of stuff. I have to give myself an extra full month to get to the point where everybody else is after like a week or two. So starting that early.
Austin, a noted prostate cancer awareness hater.
Yeah. Noted. In terms of actual starts and sits for your fantasy lineup, sticking in the MAC here to start. I'm starting DJ Irons, quarterback for Akron this week. Last week, he had a big day, 224 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air, 100 yards rushing on the ground, 28 fantasy points. Look, both defenses in this Akron and Ohio matchup are atrocious. Ohio's ranked 120th on Football Outsiders. Akron ranked 123rd. Ohio gives up the most passing yards in the country at 380 yards per game. We know DJ Irons can get it done on the ground. I think this week he'll also be able to supplement that with some passing yards through the air, a couple touchdowns there. I like DJ Irons a lot this week. Sticking in the MAC, I am starting Kian Williams, wide receiver for Buffalo. Since week 1 against Maryland, he's had 25, 21, 25, and 15 fantasy points with more than 8 targets in every single game. He's got at least 6 catches, at least 62 yards in each of the last 4 games, 3 touchdowns in 4 games. And he gets Bowling Green. Look, these MAC defenses, it's a kind of a theme. They're all terrible. Bowling Green gives up the second most pass yards per game at 336 yards. Expect a big day out of Kian Williams.
Awesome. Okay. I like both of those,
Colin.
The MAC. I mean, the MAC is starting up here. If you've got some of those guys, you should probably be playing them here. Sits. What do you like this week, Colin? Or what do you hate?
I am. We don't hate people, just Austin. But I'm sitting Jalen Moreno-Cropper this week. Jake Hayner is injured. I don't believe he's going. I haven't seen anything confirming 100% either way on that one. But I'd be surprised if he goes. But even if he does, Jake Hayner has yet to go over 85 yards on the season, no touchdowns, yet to go over 16 fantasy points. And Boise State's defense only gives up 180 pass yards per game. So I expect a heavy dose of Jordan Mims in this one and not much Moreno-Cropper.
Okay. And then one last one. Take us home.
Last one, I'm sitting last week's darling CJ Johnson, wide receiver for ECU. Look, he had 50 fantasy points last week, so huge week. But he has 2 games this season with 6 fantasy points. So he's very hit or miss. Tulane's defense is legit. They allow the fewest pass yards in the country, 123.6. They held Houston and K-State, not prolific passing offenses, but solid offenses. They held them to 150 and 208 passing yards. Their run defense, though, is in the middle of the pack. They give up 136 yards per game, so we might see a little bit more on the ground there, but I expect this to just be low scoring in general. So I'm sitting CJ Johnson.
Felix,
can we talk about that Tulane logo that we just had on that graphic just a second ago? I've never seen the Tulane logo in my life.
So
what is that? What is that?
I'm about 98% sure that's from the program.
Yeah,
okay.
Gotta be.
Okay, I was wondering. I'm like, I've never seen that before in my life.
Green wave.
He had a little green wave on his shirt. I don't know if you could see it here. I'm gonna bring it back up here. Look at it. He's got the little green wave on his shirt.
I guess. Jesus, he looks so pissed.
He's in fighting shape. He's ready to go.
Apparently.
Felix, I want to ask you real quick about Fresno. This whole offense seems to just struggle without Haener, I mean, obviously it kind of points back to just how important Jake Haener is to this Fresno team and how, like, as a whole, like, to the program.
Yeah, I mean, after Kalen DeBoer left, you would expect the sixth-year senior to be an offensive coordinator on the field. He's a very talented college quarterback who can improvise, who can, you can have confidence in and making plays at all levels of the field and get everyone in the right spot. And they added to this offense. They brought in Nico Remigio from Cal to be this kind of gadget player who can run all around. Jalen Cropper and Josh Kelly still there. And then Jordan Mims is a very good player. But without Jake Haener, I mean, it's a G5 team with a very good player at quarterback, and when you take that guy out of the mix, there's going to be a big drop off to the next player. Let's not forget, Jake Haener was an Elite 11 finalist at one point. He was a highly touted recruit there at Washington before he transferred to Fresno State. So it's no wonder that this program would take, a step back if a player like Jake Haener, who I hope that he gets healthy. Maybe we'll see him before the end of the season. I wonder if he could redshirt this season. I hope he wouldn't, because I think that he's a potential NFL player, fourth, fifth round quarterback that I have a lot of confidence in. But no, it's no wonder that they would take a step back when they have a player that's that talented, who's been in the system that long, one of the more senior players on the roster overall. It's of course they would, take a hit there.
Does he have to choose between an NFL career and an extra year of college?
Yeah.
If he redshirts, like, that's the white flag, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think he would have finished this season strong and been an NFL draft pick, but he's probably a day 3 guy without, this year of tape. I just don't know if he is a UDFA. If he's a UDFA, then I think we absolutely see him come back for a 7th year, and I'd like to see it.
Yeah, they lose some of the pieces around him, so it would be interesting to see. Like, I mean, Jordan Mims is done.
Nico Remigio is done. Josh Kelly might be done. Cropper has a 2 years. Should have 2 years
if he
left.
wants it. Yeah, well, I don't know if he would take it or not. Yeah, maybe chances of that go up if Haener returns there. Yeah. Well, Felix, you were going to tell us to start Mayan Williams today, and I think this is a good chance for us to tell everybody that Mayan Williams is out of this Ohio State game. It sounds like Travion Henderson is going to be back. So do you have any other starts for us today now that
yes,
your guy
do. Be quiet, Austin. I've got starts and sits for you, even though we messed up. I'm starting Spencer Sanders at Texas Tech. I don't think that people are giving enough credit for the season that Spencer Sanders is having. He's leading the team in rushing touchdowns. He has 11 passing touchdowns, only 2 interceptions on the season, completing 66% of his passes. We got to give Spencer Sanders some credit for the season that he is having. I would go ahead and stack him with my boy. How can I forget his name? The kid from Kansas. Yes, Brennan and Braylon Presley. I'm starting Brennan Presley in the slot there. He's been having a good season. Hasn't been scoring touchdowns, but he's been getting targeted and getting receptions. You can play him in the slot. So I am starting Spencer Sanders in a game that should be a lot of fun, Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State very much competing for a playoff spot. They probably consider themselves to be a Big Ten front runner and to get there to the playoffs. Spencer Sanders, 185 yards rushing on the season, 4 touchdowns. That leads the team, an 11-2 touchdown to interception ratio. So here, think about that, Austin Nace. I was going to start Mayan Williams after he set the touchdown record in a single touchdown record in a game last week against Rutgers. I was going to continue riding him against Michigan State today, but he's out. So, of course, start Travion Henderson. Travion Henderson is back. And then maybe we get a little bit of Dallas Hayden. Maybe we get a little Dallas Hayden today. Dallas, whatever. You got maybe we get a little bit of him today too. So that's on.
My CFF Dynasty rosters would certainly enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you like Hayden? He's kind of Mayan Williams-ish. Like, he's kind of a thicker lower halfback. Like, not like
I have not watched him enough to know if I like him or not. I just know that he's third on the depth chart.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. So sits for today. Your sit hasn't been ruled out, so that's big.
Well, I'm sitting. How about this? I don't even know who I put on the show sheet. I'm going to look at the show sheet, but I'm thinking about this. I'm sitting whoever the OU quarterback is. I think that Oklahoma gets steamrolled in this particular game. Remember, this is a team that held Alabama to 20 points, and that was without Quinn Ewers at the helm. Dylan Gabriel is allegedly warming up in this one. And after we did all this stuff with Tua Tagovailoa, you had Dylan Gabriel get absolutely knocked out last week, and they're bringing him back in. Now, he wasn't stumbling all around like Tua, but supposedly he's playing, and if he's not playing, it's going to be Nick Evers. I don't really care who it is because I'm going to.
It's not going to be Nick Evers.
So behind the scenes look here for folks, we had Nate Marquise is moderately plugged in there at Oklahoma. Apparently, the coaching staff, he has said that because of the recent concussion controversies,
awareness,
they are not inclined to play Dylan Gabriel today. So
okay,
whatever that's.
So I'm sitting the Oklahoma quarterback, and then I'm also sitting Zay Flowers. So Zay Flowers had a good game last week. He's been explosive in spurts, but you look at what he's done against Clemson in his career. Last year, he had 70 yards and 1 touchdown. And the year before that, he was held to 63 yards, again, in a touchdown. And then as a freshman, 1 catch for 5 yards. And that's as a freshman. I just think that Clemson will have learned from prior seasons and really focus their defense on stopping Zay Flowers in this one. So I am going to sit Zay. As a matter of fact, I had to make that decision in one league, and I started Nathaniel Dell over Zay Flowers. So I'm sitting Zay Flowers today against a very good Clemson defense.
Wow, really going on a limb out on a limb there, starting Nathaniel Dell.
I don't want you, Jared.
What were your other options that like it came down to you had to choose between Dell and Flowers? Like were the other receivers very, very good, or I'm just curious.
I mean, I got JoJo Earl and Ja'Cory Brooks in a whole lot of spots. So this is C2C rosters. So sometimes I don't have these fantasy guys, on my roster. I got to pick from,
So wait, you started JoJo Earl?
No, I started Nathaniel Dell. I started Nathaniel Dell.
Do you only start one
Marvin
wide
Harrison
receiver?
Jr., Marvin
Okay,
Harrison
okay.
Jr.,
Okay.
Okay, you want me to go through? All right.
Well,
you know
no,
what?
you just
Let's
said
take
it
5
came.
minutes.
You said it
go
came
talk
down.
about my fantasy teams.
You said it
Yes,
came down to 2 different top 10 wide receivers, essentially. So you're like, I was just like, do you have like 6 top 10? I was just curious what else you were rolling out.
Okay, well, give me 30
Yeah,
seconds.
Marvin Harrison over Zay Flowers is legit. Marvin Harrison over Nathaniel Dell is legit.
And Dell,
I ain't knocking you on that. I just want to know who else you had.
Yeah, that's where I was too. I'm glad that somebody else.
Well, let's just have 5 minutes of silence where I go look through my roster.
Look it up. Yeah, we're all waiting for you. All right, so we're gonna move on from start sit here. If you guys have any start sits throughout the show here, feel free to drop them in the comments, and we'll try to get to them.
I started.
All
right, here's the wide receivers that I started: Josh Downs, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Nathaniel Dell. Those are the wide receivers that I started.
Okay.
Those are 3 legit.
Is that satisfactory? Is that okay?
That is satisfactory.
Okay. All right.
No, it's not satisfactory. All right, guys. So Barnabas every week, Barnabas Lee, NFL draft writer with us, covers some intriguing matchups across college football every week. He writes a nice article. Go ahead, check that out. The Fight Card. He also does his marquee here with us. And today he's talking Chase Brown, running back at Illinois. What are his pro prospects? Barnabas is going to let us know.
This is Barnabas Lee with the marquee for Week 6. Look at how time flies when you're having fun. That is, unless you're expecting offensive production watching Thursday Night Football or any game involving the Iowa Hawkeyes. Following their trouncing of Wisconsin last week, Illinois finds himself atop the Big Ten West, with Iowa just a tick behind. Big Ten running backs are always underappreciated by evaluators during the draft process because they usually come with a fair amount of mileage and haven't showcased their abilities concerning the passing game. We at C2C have discussed Chase Brown as another prospect that can work their way to day 2 draft capital. He has a track background, so his speed is a given, but he also finishes runs better than expected. However, he is an active detriment in pass protection, with his head down, eyes closed lunges being his go-to technique, and is only serviceable as a receiver. Nevertheless, Brown has proven productive enough to top the conference in rushing yards. This ability and usage will be put to the test against the stingy Hawkeye defense and one of the best linebacking cores in the country. Iowa started the season with 3 players on the Butkus Award watch list. Even after losing Justin Jacobs to injury, this defense has been able to lean on its backers to lead the stellar defense. Though Seth Benson may lead the team in tackles, Jack Campbell is the better prospect. At 6'4" and 248 pounds, Campbell looks like an old school Tampa 2 linebacker. He has a comfortable drop into coverage and understands zones effectively to cover slot receivers. He also has good strength, as demonstrated by a plus hump and shed. Yet his best trait is his football IQ. Iowa is known to generate smart, corn-fed athletes, and Campbell has even Dane Brugler on the day 2 draft capital train. Chase Brown is an interesting matchup for Jack Campbell, as Brown's athleticism is closer to the players in the NFL. Campbell's athleticism is adequate, but may not be enough to cover any misstep induced by craftier runners. Seth Benson is the better mover and may once again end up leading the Hawkeyes in tackles, but this game could elevate Campbell's draft stock if he shows he can stay with faster running backs. Brown, on the other hand, has an opportunity to show he can beat smarter linebackers, especially as a weapon out of the backfield. If you want to hear about more matchups like this, make sure to look up the Checking the Fight Card series released every Tuesday at campusdecanton.com.
All right. Thank you there, Barnabas. And I do just want to ask you guys real quick, ask the panel, what do we think of Chase Brown? I think Barnabas covered him pretty well there. Intriguing athlete, but not uber athlete. Colin, do you think he's a 4th, 5th round guy maybe for the NFL?
Yeah, he's been one of my biggest risers so far this year, amongst running backs here. And I think he has, with Josh McCray being out, he's really stepped up, really taken over that backfield, looked good. I think he's a solid athlete, like Barnabas was saying. So, yeah, I think he's looking at like some day 3 draft capital, 4th, 5th round. I would agree with that. Yeah.
Say the line, Colin. Say the line.
Day 3 draft capital.
Boo.
I don't see day
Boo
2.
this man. Boo this man. Felix, what do you think, Chase Brown? Are you a fan?
I am a fan in certain respects. Like, I think that he's going to have value. That running back position is so fragile and it's so subject to volatility that would be surprised if Chase Brown ended up like on the Ravens and ended up being the starter for 2 or 3 weeks and being, having an RB2 floor. Yeah, I could see that. He has enough talent to be a draft pick and end up on a roster and find himself start. I mean, Travis Homer was getting offensive snaps earlier in this season. He's on the IR now, but a player that we didn't see a lot from, a day 3 pick. So I think that he is on that spectrum of players who could be fantasy relevant at the NFL level and obviously, an RB1 in college. But no, I agree with what Colin is saying. Day 3 draft capital isn't bad draft capital for a running back. It's not. We need to stop thinking of Ramondre Stevenson, fourth round pick. I could come up with some other examples if I think, but that position, I just can't think. I mean, I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I could think of other examples, but I mean, people started you're going to start Deion Jackson next week if Jonathan Taylor isn't back and Naheem Hines is out. Some people are going to be starting him.
Damian Pierce, right?
Damian Pierce. There you go. Like day 3 draft capital, 4th, 5th, 6th round is not terrible draft capital for a running back, especially in C2Cs when it is so hard to acquire these, like the Nick Singleton, Braylon Allen, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson types. Only one player can have those guys rostered, so you have to find value elsewhere. And yes, a player like Chase Brown is going to have some value because he's going to be an NFL draft pick and could find himself starting in places. The thing about C2C rosters is the rosters that win oftentimes don't look like traditional dynasty rosters. These are rosters that have a lot of holes. See, just by virtue of the format, your teams that could win could have a lot of holes. So, yeah, there is value in having a player like Chase Brown rostered who could find himself starting over a few weeks at the NFL level next year. I wish I could think of some other examples of players who fit that mold, who aren't day 1 guys, necessarily day 2 guys, but they still have value. They still have value. They're players that you have to roster because it is hard to get that pipeline going in C2C. I mean, we're looking at rankings. We're trying to check this stuff all the time, but it is still hard to have. You probably have rosters that sent, 1-2 guys to your NFL roster this year who are relevant. I mean, I had Khalil Pimpleton in a lot of places. He's absolutely doing nothing, but a guy like, Chase Brown could actually have value for you. So yes, roster players like that because they could give you a return later on, somewhat of a return.
Yeah, an NFL running back's all about opportunity. So if he gets one, he could seize a job.
Somebody asked here in the chat, I can't tell if they're being a smartass or not. Sit one, Travion, Jahmyr Gibbs, Braylon Allen. If you had to choose one of those three to sit, Jared, who are you sitting today?
I'll sit Braylon. Last week's performance was a pretty big red flag, not necessarily for Braylon, although that's an entirely different conversation. This more has to do to me with the Wisconsin offense in general. They can't open up that run game until they get a passing game going. And like whenever they seems like they got something going, they had their tight end Clondiff a few weeks ago. He's out for a while, so now they don't really have a ton of great passing options, and so they're going to stack the box against Braylon Allen a whole ton. Leads to results like last week. I expect him to have a much better performance this week. I expect a little bit of a bounce back performance. They're going up against Northwestern this week. It should be a much easier time than the surprisingly really good Illinois defense this year. But he's the biggest risk out of the three. I think Jahmyr Gibbs and Travion Henderson going up against conference matchups today, they're going to be big pieces of their offenses moving today, especially if Alabama does not play Bryce Young. I feel like we get to see a bit more Jahmyr Gibbs than we have been.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've seen like official confirmation, but I saw some reports yesterday that Bryce Young was not going to play.
Yeah.
Until I hear Nick Saban say it and or the opening snap is out there and it's not Bryce Young. I'm not banking on that necessarily, but I mean, yeah, it's going to be tough for him.
Can I interrupt?
No, it's not interrupting. It's just you. Go ahead.
It is just me freestyling. We need CFF and C2C takes retweeted from that Fantasy Receipts account. That account is totally discriminatory against college fantasy sports. And I'm trying to look for bad takes of my own. But if we're going to grow this, listen, I don't have any. I was looking for a Brock Vandegrift take, but I haven't like I took Brock Vandegrift at like the 105 in a
startup mock that we did.
A startup mock. But I cannot find bad takes. So if you would please don't do it for Austin or Colin. Colin doesn't tweet a lot anyway.
I don't tweet. But if you find one for me, like you probably dug pretty deep. Kudos.
Yes. Please find a bad take of mine and tweet at Fantasy Receipts so we can grow this format. Appreciate it. Thank you for my TED Talk. For coming to my TED Talk.
All right, guys. I want to talk a little bit about Jimbo here. Big story this weekend. We talked a lot about it on Better Sports this morning. The situation has gotten so bad there at Texas A&M 2 years into a almost $100 million guaranteed contract that people are calling into Paul Feinbaum and asking about hiring hitmen to take care of Jimbo. Things are not going well. And that's a freaking weirdo fan base anyway. So that's not, I would not be taking my chances if I'm Jimbo. I'm hiring security this week. Realistically,
for real.
Seriously, they're weirdos, man. Realistically though, Jared, I mean, Jimbo, they can't fire him, can they?
No, there's no way in hell they're going to be able to. Texas A&M's got a lot of money to throw around, but there's no way they're going to be able to pay that buyout. Here's the thing I think what's going to happen, and Jimbo does have a choice to make here. We joked on before the show, who's the real offensive coordinator, their so-called offensive coordinator or Jimbo Fisher. The answer remains the same of he's got to open up that position after this year, and he's got to bring in somebody from the outside to run a new offense, because the offense that he's trying to run, the one that he won a national championship at Florida State with, it's outdated. It's as simple as that. He needs to bring somebody else in who is going to be willing to be able to tell him no, and that's quite frankly the only way he's going to be able to keep that program going, because currently on the trajectory that they're on, this could be really, really bad really quickly for Texas A&M if they ever want to have a sniffer's chance of getting to the national championship.
With the money they're investing, that's the expectation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To Jimbo, to the NIL
to the players,
to all
exactly.
Yeah. Colin, I mean, what are you doing here if you're Texas? I mean, you're worried if they're bad that some of these kids leave, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with some of the other stories that have kind of leaked out of there about, some players not being happy already, some NIL stuff that may not have been what was promised. There's enough smoke there that I would definitely be concerned with some guys transferring out. And if they lose some of those explosive playmakers, they're right back to where they were before, when there was Kellen Mond there, and it was just really the running game. They didn't really have any receivers. Now they at least have 5-star guys in Evan Stewart, Chris Marshall. Musa Muhammad actually looked pretty good there too as well. He wasn't a 5-star guy, but they have some weapons there. They got to get him involved or they're going to lose them.
But the problem is they don't have a quarterback right now that can get him the ball. I mean, people can scream about Connor Weigman all day, but at the end of the day, he's still a true freshman. And as much as we want true freshmen to be ready day one, most of the time they're just straight up not. And they're honestly probably going to be worse, at least preparedness wise, than anybody else that they're throwing out there. You're like, yeah, maybe they flash some talent here and there, but that's not the answer they're looking for here.
I think the offensive line's part of that problem too. They're just not pass blocking well.
It's such a crazy problem to have because if you wanted to project NFL quarterbacks, what state would you go to grab the players that you would project? You would go to Texas first. I mean, Matthew Stafford, Quinn Ewers. I mean, there's a long history. Drew Brees, there's a long history of quarterbacks excelling from the state of Texas. But for as highly regarded as Jimbo Fisher has been in college football, it seems like he gets recruits, but then doesn't develop those players to be, especially at the offensive skill positions, to be great college players or great NFL players. I don't know. So Jimbo is going to have to go get an offensive coordinator. I think that we like Zach Kitley. I would also consider Jeff Grimes. If Jeff Grimes wants to go from Waco to wherever the hell, I don't even know where. Is it College Station to College Station, Texas? He doesn't have to move that far. He can stay in state. So Jimbo's got a problem on his hand because there's a lot of money and money talks, and these boosters are going to want a return on their investment.
Again, he's got to do what Kirby Smart did. Kirby Smart went out and got Todd Monken and just kind of handed the offense over to him. Yeah, it took a couple years for it to really get going, but Georgia's offense, at least to start this year, looked better than anything Kirby's ever produced under him, and a lot of that had to do with just him giving it up. Jimbo Fisher has to do the exact same thing.
I think part of the problem there is Jimbo is known as like an offensive guy. Like that's kind of what he hangs his hat on. So I don't think, one, he wants to give up control. And two, I mean, we've heard stories this past offseason about, the battles that happen between Saban and Jimbo. Jimbo's going to need a strong personality as the offensive coordinator to kind of assert themselves and say, no, I think you're wrong. The game has changed. Let's do it this way. I think he's going to have a really hard time finding that, even if he is willing to cede some control.
Well, Jeff Grimes is old. He's a former offensive lineman. Marty Morningweg, Andy Reid have been his head coaches, and he describes, or his offensive system has been described as 49ers air raid. What do you guys think the chances are that Jimbo had to sit down this week to have some sort of security briefing with some dude in a black suit and with an earpiece in his ear to say, all right, this is how it's going to be? I mean, I think he had to have that 20-minute meeting this week.
Probably.
100%.
Probably.
If somebody's calling it a Paul Feinbaum show and saying they're going to kill you, like hinting at, they just got Felix. No. Oh, okay. He's they got him. They got him. Yeah, I mean, it's more likely that they force him to hire an offensive coordinator before they attempt to fire him. I think.
I agree 100%.
Or kill him.
One final question on this, and I'm going
Texas Oil, man.
To you first here, Felix. Is his offense, Jared, you had mentioned his offense is outdated. Is his offense outdated, or has he just basically had the Dabo thing where if he's had an elite quarterback, it's gone very well, and if he hasn't, it's gone very poorly? Has he been carried at points here?
Well, we've seen – so the modern offenses play fast and spread it out. Would you describe Jimbo's offense as either playing fast or spreading it out? No.
Definitely don't play fast, no.
Yeah, so – I mean, how would he be? He's got Connor Weigman there. I mean, and they've got offensive skill position players who could play that kind of play style. So the tools are there, but it's just, even when he had Jameis Winston, it felt, I know I'm saying this, and Jameis Winston was the number 1 overall pick, but he had turnover problems his entire career. He doesn't throw a tight spiral. He was always kind of sloppy athletically. That stuff that once you get in your program, that stuff should be tightened up, and it never was. And we've seen, Jameis Winston be a very volatile quarterback in the NFL. So, and if you take away Jameis Winston, then he's got what? The dude who was drafted by the Bills, like 17 overall, and then EJ Manuel and Christian Potter, none of whom were, great NFL quarterbacks. So this is all comes to Jimbo's feet, and if he's going to keep his job and his life there in College Station, he's going to have to bring in someone who can actually develop players and have an offensive system around those players that emphasizes their strengths.
Yeah, I think Georgia basically showed the blueprint for what he wants to do last year, but I think threading the needle in terms of like winning basically on the back of your defense and then timely offensive play is almost impossible in the modern college game. You have to basically have one of the top 5 defenses of all time to pull it off. Maybe that's what Jimbo's going for. Maybe it is. I don't with the 5-star defensive lineman they brought in this year, and they've got some pretty good DBs there. But I mean, you're really threading a needle. That's a difficult feat. I mean, Georgia's struggling with it again this year. I mean, they're I think a little more explosive offensively, but I think they're trying to do the same thing. And we've seen there's some holes there when you can't just dominate on that side. Would you agree with that?
That's why
Jared?
Nick Saban has this thing locked up, because he can do both. He's had the explosive offenses. He's still recruiting players like Dallas Turner and Will Anderson. And so, man, if you're going to compete with an Alabama and an Ohio State, man, I think perennial, those are the 2 teams that we're trying to catch up to. You better get that offense going.
All right, let's pivot to some. Oh, go ahead, Jared. Close us out.
I was gonna say you mentioned like what Georgia struggles right now and everything, and again, a lot of that is Georgia just not living up to the talent they have on defensive line and offensive line. I think that's where a lot of the problems lie there, and so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Sure, but again, I mean that shows how you can get the best of the best, and
it's difficult.
It's tough. It really is. It has to be perfect scenario.
Recruiting's half the battle, but you got to fill up the other half too.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some Prize Picks here, guys. We are partnered with Prize Picks. Promo code C2C. If you sign up there on your initial deposit, get you a match up to $100, and it gets you $29.99 toward any membership here at Campus to Canton. So go ahead, go over
Make
to
a
Prize
deposit
Picks
today, and I will travel to your home and kiss you on the mouth if you make a deposit today.
Oh, with that 5 o'clock shadow.
Or he won't.
Whiskers and everything.
Either way, I mean, I see a lot of Prize Picks promos out there. We're the only one I've seen giving away a membership with that. So if you want to play Prize Picks, you're literally losing money.
And we've done pretty well on our Prize Picks the past couple weeks, although Anthony Grant boomed me last night, that little jerk.
I wouldn't check that because you were all over that. I was like, dang, I kind of agreed with Austin on that one.
So
I agree too. I put money on it.
I much preferred the fantasy points line, which went up as the week went on, which is I figured it would. I played that and I talked about it on Bet on C2C this week. His fantasy points opened at 15.5, and he hit like 14.8 or something. Like I can't believe he didn't hit the 15.5.
All he needed was a touchdown. Just couldn't get it.
As soon as they did the play action to score that first touchdown and threw it to the wide open tight end, I was like, that was it. That was the touchdown.
That's where we lost the chance.
That's not coming back. All right, so let's talk about some ones that we have a chance to hit today. Colin, Prize Picks lines that you like.
First one I like here is Jaden Daniels, quarterback for LSU, over 49.5 rush yards. He's been over this number 3 times so far this year, 118 yards, 93 yards, 59 yards. So he's running the ball a lot. Most of the time, actually, when they're trying to pass plays, and it breaks down, he just takes off and runs. And LSU is going to have to score to keep up with Tennessee in this one. So I like Jaden Daniels' rushing line in this one. And then the next one I have is Riley Leonard, QB for Duke, over 18.5 fantasy points. This is bizarre to me that it's that low. The only time he has not hit that number this year was 15 fantasy points against Northwestern. The other games he's had 31, 34, 29, and 24 fantasy points. So he's been over this pretty comfortably most weeks. They get Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is, not a good defense. They're not a good team overall. I like this one a lot.
I think people might be banking on a rejuvenated Georgia Tech with the firing of Jeff Collins. That's
actually. I was going to point out the fact that the one game that he was under in against Northwestern, the running backs were able to take over. And that's part of the reason why he didn't score as many fantasy points, because he didn't have to. Georgia Tech has a horrendous rushing defense. And so if the running backs are able to take over once again, we could be in for a Northwestern repeat. But I agree with you. There's no reason not to take the over there.
Yeah. I actually hadn't noticed that line. Jared, what do you like this week?
First, we're going to go with quarterback CJ Stroud over 26.5 fantasy points. Absolutely dominated Michigan State last year when they had one of the worst secondaries in the country. Guess what? They have one of the worst secondaries in the country again this year. They're going to be relying heavily on Stroud today. It should be a really big day for Travion Henderson, but with how banged up that running back room is, I have a feeling they do not want to rely on that today. And so therefore, they're going to kind of air it out a little bit. Let Marvin Harrison, let Emeka Egbuka, let all of those guys eat a little bit. And CJ Stroud is probably going to clear this, I would say, relatively with ease. Next one we're going to look at here. Will Rogers under negative 9.5 rushing yards. He has hit the under on this in the last three out of the last 5 games. And he is going up against Arkansas's pass rush this week, which includes Mr. Drew Sanders, one of the best pass rushers in the country. I have a feeling he will be on the dirt multiple times this game and will easily clear this under. And if he does get sacked, he's not going to make it up with his legs because he just doesn't run. Next one here. I'll throw this one out as like a bonus because it's already off the board. But Jaron Bradley, wide receiver at Texas Tech, I would take the under. I got him at under 4 receptions. He only played 10 snaps last week. He was on the second team wide receivers. It is a fall from grace from where we thought he would be near the beginning of the season. But that line's off the board, so I'm going to give you guys an extra bonus one here. Isaiah Williams, you could probably still get him at this at over 5.5 receptions. That's the best line you can get on Isaiah Williams all day long. They don't throw it to him deep very often, but they do get the ball in his hands so many times every single game. And so over 5.5 receptions feels very, very nice for me.
Yeah, and it still is at 5.5. I just double checked for you there, Jared.
Perfect. Thank you.
Felix, Prize Picks. What do you like?
All right, I'm going to go to my boy Anthony Richardson, who's been playing better as of late. They take on Missouri, and I'm going the under on one interception. I think it's one interception. I am going the under. Laughs.
No.
It's in half.
I'm laughing at the googly eye version of Felix in the bottom right corner. That's what I'm laughing at. I'm not laughing at this pick. I like the pick. I don't like. I'm laughing at the Felix in the bottom corner.
It's half. So I'm taking him to have no interceptions on the day. He's been emphasizing protecting the ball a little bit more here recently, and so I'm taking the under on that one. The other play that I like is Jalen Daniels. I'm going under on 29.5 pass yards. I don't know why over is picked there. They take on TCU today. Jalen Daniels has had under 200 yards passing in 3 of his 5 starts so far, including last week against Iowa State. Now, this game could be way higher scoring. It should be way higher scoring than last week. And so my concern is if TCU gets out to a big lead in the second half, maybe Jalen Daniels is passing to catch up. However, if I'm the offensive coordinator for Kansas, I'm trying to make this game as quick as possible. I'm going to be running the ball and not risking turnovers. And so that's why I'm taking the under on Jalen Daniels, who can be a part of the running game there for Lance Leopold. So I'm going to keep his pass attempts to like 20 or below and try to run out the play clock every play, like try to make this game a 2.5-hour game and not a long game, and keep that clock running and keep the ball on the ground. And so that's my justification for taking the under on 209.5 passing yards under for Jalen Daniels.
Interesting there. I've got a couple here for us this morning. One of them actually moved a little bit, so I'm going to pivot away, but I'll give you a bonus one to go along with it here. First up, Jalen McMillan, wide receiver for Washington there. Surprise, surprise. They get a real quarterback in Washington, and Jalen McMillan and Rome Odunze both end up doing something.
Who would have thought?
He gets 8 to 10 targets a game is his usual range. 13. If Prize Picks is full PPR, so to get to 13.5 fantasy points, there's a pretty easy path there. 5-6 catches, 80-ish yards. That's what he's been doing as a floor about every week. So I like the 13.5 to go over there for him. This is the one that's moved a little bit. I believe it's at 5 or 5.5 now. Jalen Hyatt receptions. I liked the over, but it's moved a little bit. So I'm not probably playing that one anymore unless you're feeling really, really spicy today. But what I do like here is this Blake Corum play. Over 20 fantasy points. I actually really like his rush yards as well. 107.5 is I believe is what it's at right now. Weak rushing attack. They're going to establish the run. They can't really pass the ball consistently anyway. So I think they're going to get up big early, and I think Corum is going to be the reason why, just as he's been the past few weeks. One other one that I want to toss out that I really, really like today. I like the over on everything Bijan Robinson actually today. Over 104.5 rush yards, over 125.5 rush / receiving yards. That one is my lock of the day. And then over 22.5 as a fantasy score there. Oklahoma, their front seven is bottom 30 in the country in pretty much every single meaningful metric there. I think Texas gets out early in this one, and Bijan gets a pretty nice workload because of it.
Austin, are we on good terms with the Odunze family now, or how are we doing? How are we doing with them?
Are we on bad terms? Did I miss something?
I muted his dad.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Oh yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, you like him today, so maybe we're doing better. Odunze family, get in the chat. Subscribe to Campus to Canton on YouTube, and Odunze family, subscribe to Campus to Canton on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, good times. Promo code C2C, folks. Promo code C2C. Let's make some money today. All right, guys, this brings us to game selections. So let's just hop right into this here. We have 6 games to select this week. Matt dropped the rankings or the standings so far earlier this week. You can go check those out. Everybody's over 500, so we're doing great here. Arkansas at Mississippi State. I guess I go first since I am first in line here. I'll bring up the graph. There's the graphic. Okay. Arkansas and Mississippi State. Arkansas a little banged up. KJ Jefferson practicing. Sounds like he's probably going to play, but he's kind of a main piece for them. Mississippi State is hot, coming over off a nice win against Texas A&M. Give me Mississippi State.
Mississippi State.
Boom.
Pretty much for all the same reasons that Austin talked about. Arkansas is a beat up and quite frankly defeated team at this point. I think Mississippi State wins it today pretty easily.
All right. And Colin?
Yeah, I think this will be decently close here, especially with KJ Jefferson playing. But give me Mississippi State. I mean, their defense is ranked 16th on Football Outsiders. When you pair that with that offense that's normally very explosive, that's a dangerous combo.
That LSU loss is going to come back to bite them in the butt. I'm thinking they're going to want to have that one back. We're going to look back on that and be like, wow, that was a really weird loss as the year goes on. Next up here, guys, Red River rivalry, Red River shootout, whatever you want to call it. That's where our colleague Matt Bruning is. Exactly. He checked in live earlier. He looks like he's having a good time.
He's going to have a hard time covering that LSU Tennessee game tonight, though, from that game.
Best of luck to him. Texas wins this game. It's an 8-point spread. It sounds like Dylan Gabriel has suited up, just for the record. We are getting live information here. He is in packs. I'm not sure that's a great decision from like a keeping him alive standpoint, but Texas wins this. Felix?
Muted. I mean, is life really that important? All of the bad things that happen in life. So, all right.
Yeah, 100% of people who drink water die. So
that's accurate. I'm going with Texas today. I think Texas is a good football team. They've had some losses on their schedule, but they have not had the quarterback, and I think that can really change things for this team. And this defense is a lot better than what people remember last year when they gave up. I mean, how much did Texas give up last year in the Red River shootout? It was like a 48-55, something like that when Caleb Williams came in. Anyway, I'm going with Texas today.
548.
Everything's going wrong for Oklahoma. A few really good things are happening for Texas, including the fact they're getting Quinn Ewers back today at quarterback. I got to go Texas here. Sorry, Nate.
Yeah, Ewers is back. Gabriel should be out this week. I mean, if he plays, that's kind of egregious. But either way, even if Gabriel's out there, give me Texas.
All right, we're sticking in the Big 12 here. We're going to go Kansas State. Iowa State. Who did I pick here? I don't even know. I picked Kansas State. Kansas State's a pretty good team this year. Adrian Martinez is going to do just enough in this one. We're We're going to get good Adrian today, not bad Adrian today.
Kansas State is on the road. I still think we see the development of Hunter Deckers and getting everyone involved. They need a deep threat. And I think that might be Jalen Noel, but we heard about their deep passing game in the spring and in the fall, and that hasn't been the case yet. Maybe they get it going today. I'm taking the Fighting Hunter Deckers and the Iowa State Cyclones.
Y'all gonna keep throwing on Iowa State games every single week to see how many times I can pick them. And guess what? I'm gonna keep picking them again this week. Cyclones are an underrated team. They would have won against Kansas last week had Gyro Brock not gone down after the very first play of that game. They couldn't get a running game. They couldn't get any kind of offense moving after that game or after that injury. I think with Brock back this week, they're able to take down Kansas State at home.
I'm going with K-State in this one. This is going to be a defensive battle. Both of these defenses are ranked inside the top 10. Both of them, Iowa State does a very good job limiting explosive plays, which is a little bit of my concern for Adrian Martinez. But I think K-State's offense is just a little bit better than Iowa State's. Give me K-State on the road.
And for tracking purposes, Matt Bruning, Chris Moxley also picked Kansas State. They also picked Texas and Mississippi State. So they've been in lockstep there. TCU at Kansas, guys. Man, who would have thought that this would be a premier matchup this week? Kansas undefeated, ranked for the first time in basically forever. But it ends here, guys. The fun ends here. I have TCU beating them. This Kansas team hasn't beaten anybody yet. TCU, one of their first real challenges, and I think they knock them off their perch.
Is it over, Austin? Is it? Kansas is at home. Yes, this is a feel-good story, but they have the momentum. That place, it's sold out. This game sold out like on Monday or Tuesday. I've got Kansas in this one. Let's go Jayhawks.
Oh.
Both of these teams are riding high. Kansas having one of the best seasons they've had in pretty much a decade, and TCU coming right off of just absolutely dismantling longtime big brother Oklahoma. It's tough to say which team is going to be, whether TCU be in hangover mode or not. Regardless, I think they're the better overall team, so I'm going to take TCU.
Who scores more fantasy points in the NFL in their career? Quentin Johnston or Devin Neal?
Devin Neal.
Johnston.
Oh, okay. In this game. Sorry. Go ahead, Jared.
I was going to say I'm a CFF expert, not an NFL projections expert.
In this one, give me TCU here. I think Kansas is a feel-good story. I think they're kind of fraudulent. Like Austin said, they haven't beaten anybody really good this year. Their defense is also not good. They're ranked 119th. TCU's offense has been solid. It's been cooking the past couple weeks here. And TCU's defense is also solid. They're ranked 46th. Give me the Horned Frogs here.
All right. And Matt and Chris, again, both picked TCU. BYU at Notre Dame, but it's in Vegas. It's not really a home game for anybody closer to BYU, but we know that those pesky Notre Dame fans travel. Felix keeps wanting to call this the Holy War. This is not the Holy War. Stop it.
Not the Holy War.
Felix. I'm taking BYU.
Why is this game even on the schedule? Like, why are we picking this game? Why aren't we?
If BYU wins out, they have a chance to make the playoff. I don't know why everyone's discounting.
This is
I don't know. I don't know about that one. I mean, but they got a tough schedule ahead of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they win out, they've got a tough schedule.
Yeah, but do you expect them to win out? I don't. I expect them to lose 2 to 3 more games down the stretch.
We don't have Washington State, USC as a pick. That should have been on the list. Let us know in the comments if this game absolutely sucks.
Tennessee, LSU?
No, it's not. There's a lot of games that we could put. We got BYU, Notre Dame.
I know who you're picking. I already heard you do it. You're not taking the upset.
I don't think anybody else is except you, Austin.
What? No, I meant in the Washington State game. No, I'm taking BYU.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm taking BYU here. I don't care. I don't know why the hell Notre Dame's favorite.
I do not care in the slightest who wins this game. It shouldn't even be on the show sheet. I'm protesting. I am protesting this game being on the show sheet for today. It's absolutely ridiculous. And Austin Ace, you should be ashamed of yourself. Ashamed.
There were other better games to pick from here. Regardless, I'm just going to go Notre Dame.
Look, I'm not going to hate on this game being on the schedule here. I think this is a legitimate game here. There are ones that I probably would have put on here ahead of that. Tennessee, LSU, Washington.
Colin,
Exactly.
maybe.
Tennessee LSU is a 3-point
Colin,
game.
I can make your life very difficult throughout the week. I think I was.
I was just
careful about what I was
supporting
saying.
you. I was supporting you. I said it's not a bad game to put on here. We can't
I
cover
would have
all
put
of
Kent
these
State.
games.
I would put
We
Kent
know-
State at Miami of Ohio on the show sheet over
Kent
this
State's
game.
going to beat him by 30.
Anyway, I am taking Notre Dame here in this one. Their offense has been rolling a little bit more with Pine under center. Their defense has been exactly what we would expect from them. They're ranked 14th. BYU has a couple players banged up. They're kind of getting them back in the lineup, but give me Notre Dame. I just think they're a better overall team, even at full strength for both sides.
The two missing gentlemen both also picked Notre Dame. Last one here, Florida State at NC State, guys. Give me NC State here. Coming off a tough loss. Both these teams coming off tough losses, but I think NC State's just a better roster overall.
No, I think Florida State is, and I'm taking Jordan Travis to get this win on the road. We haven't seen NC State have the running game that we expect, and I think we can see Mike Norvell and the Seminoles establish theirs. And that's how you have to win on the road. You got to kind of control the clock and the crowd, and I think that they'll be able to do that. So I've got Florida State on the road.
I think Felix makes a very, very good argument for Florida State. However, I'm going to take the Wolfpack here at home.
Wolfpack? Yeah, I'm giving NC State here. They're 19th ranked defense. I think they're just a more talented team overall. Florida State, I think they're underrated, but NC State's better. Their running game should get more room this week than against Clemson. Give me NC State. Last note on the previous game, too, though, I figured out why Austin put that on the show sheet. He went the opposite direction. He's trying to gain a game on everybody. He knew they would take Notre Dame
first.
He knew they would take Notre Dame, and that's why he's doing it. He's gaming the system. I'm on to you.
All right, that's going to do it for you guys. We're going to bring Alfred on here. Alfred, are you ready?
I'm kicking all you guys
Listen,
out.
Here,
I know my performance was not great today, but next week we'll do better. Broncos country, let's ride.
And with that, he was
good Lord.
gone. Jared, have fun today at the Georgia game.
Appreciate it, man.
Good luck to the Bulldogs. Colin, whatever you're doing today, on apple picking or some shit. Go have fun doing that. I don't know,
painting.
but considering you're doing this because of your
I'm painting
fiance, I can't
ceramics.
imagine what else you have to do today at her behest. Alfred, how's it going, buddy? Looking good today.
What's up, everybody? I'm doing great. Coached some T-ball to a big win. Green team rise
Green
up.
team?
And green team, baby. So we did well, we had a couple big hits. My son won game ball. So, we're having a great Saturday so far.
Love that. What position? They kind of rotate them all between the positions. Does your son have a favorite?
Yeah, no, we're he just likes the position that catches the grounder that inevitably will be hit.
Nice.
Yeah, that's where we are right now.
Future Gold Glove winner there.
Oh yeah, loves the field. We need to get him to uppercut the swing a little bit. I'm gonna work on that in the next few weeks. Instead of hitting down into the dirt, we want to uppercut.
Get him in the cage.
Yeah, got to.
We'll fix this thing. All right, Alfred. Well, thanks for coming on. You are our betting guy here. Well,
my article is not very good, but otherwise, I'm doing okay outside of the article picks that I've been putting out.
As the guy that helps him place the bets at times, I do know that Alfred is up on the year, so he is doing well, regardless of what happens in the article. Well, we brought you on to talk about some of your favorite lines here this week. So I'm just going to toss this right to you. Go ahead, take it away with TCU Kansas here.
So I kind of wanted to talk about, we always talk about games we like, but I actually wanted to throw out a couple of games that I do not recommend betting on, that I don't want to touch at all. TCU Kansas is one of them. I know you guys picked earlier. I think everybody picked TCU, and that's the right side. They're the better team. The numbers back it up. I think they're more talented probably across the board. But Kansas is a team at this point, like I'm not betting against them, especially at home. They're at home. They got that special sauce cooking.
They got college game day. They got
It's
college game day.
I would say it's like a premium letdown spot. You know, a lot of times these upstart teams get ranked and then immediately lose. You know, I think Leipold's a good coach too. He's cooked up a lot of good game plans. I just don't want to touch it. And we don't have to spend too much time. I think it's a fun game. I want to watch that game. I do not want to bet it. I mean, a touchdown is definitely pretty intriguing to take the points at home with this, whatever this special vibe they got going on in Kansas. But like TCU could definitely win. I mean, I think it could be a blowout as well. And so I have no reason to touch that game. The other is
it a spot that maybe you're live betting, Alfred? The game total 70. Like, we're expecting some points to be scored here.
So that's a great point, actually. And, you know, especially I'd be looking if Kansas goes up 7-10-0. TCU looks a little clunky. I would throw a money line on TCU if they get close to even odds, just because I think ultimately they should come back and win the game. You know, the other thing is if TCU comes out and looks clearly better, and Kansas looks like they may not have that special stuff going on this week with their offense, and TCU seems to be stopping the run within the first few series, then I might live bet TCU. You know, just see how the vibe is going. What's the mental state of these teams? And if Kansas comes out, looks a little flat, it could be bad, like 28 points bad.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
margin.
Okay.
I mean, because TCU is incredible on offense. Their defense is not that good, but I think Kansas can be stopped for sure. If they're not, you know, cooking with their smoke and mirrors option offense. So, you know, I definitely think that's a good live betting option. Good point there. Another one, again, you know, all of these, I guess, on the front end, maybe you don't touch it because you want to see what these teams are going to look like today. And another one is Tennessee at LSU. Again, Tennessee should win this game. They should win going away. I think LSU is pretty bad. They've righted the ship a little bit, but I still think they are not very good. That their quarterback play is terrible. They don't really have a running back they can rely on. Their offense looks bad. But did they turn a corner a little bit with the big win at Auburn coming back? You know, can Brian Kelly recapture that locker room? Can they get him, you know, the whole team walk in the same direction? And can Brian Kelly kind of get everybody to be doing the same assignments? That could happen. I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility. I know we've heard everyone hates Brian Kelly. All the players want out. But that could have been a big galvanizing win last week at Auburn. And so I don't really know what LSU is going to look like. Tennessee should win, but it's at LSU. Tennessee's got a premium look-ahead spot right now for a letdown. Don't they have Bama next week? I'm pretty certain. So, you know, Tennessee's probably peeking ahead a little bit, knowing Bama's on the schedule. So, you know, is Tennessee going to look flat? If Tennessee comes out, scores one real easy, I might bet them because they might blow them out again. You know, like even if the line goes up, kind of who cares? This could be one of those that they win going away by 21, 24 points. So I want to see what these teams look like again. And then BYU Notre Dame is another one. I know you guys picked it. I don't know what to expect again here because BYU's got the QB. I think they probably have the better offense. They definitely have the best QB on the field, which usually counts a lot for me. But their defense, their run defense is terrible. They've been getting just beat off the ball, pushed around, and that's what Notre Dame wants to do. So, you know, can Notre Dame control this offense and control this game by just running it down their throat the way they did to UNC? I could see, you know, BYU having a real tough time. So again, I want to watch it. It's an interesting game, but I don't really care. There's plenty of other games to choose from.
Okay, well, those are the games that you're not touching, but you might play live.
Yeah, I think Tennessee, LSU, and TCU Kansas is a premium live bet. Just get a feel in the first few series what those teams look like.
Conversely, then, I mean, what are you betting now?
Yes. So the games I'm actually
line up?
interested in. But, you know, you can attack these things from so many different angles. So I just thought that was an interesting way to put it. But, yeah, games I really like. Duke at Georgia Tech. Man, Duke is good. I think Duke's good, like relatively speaking, of course, but I think they're a good team. They've got a good quarterback. I really like Riley Leonard. I know you guys talked about him on the Prize Picks. I think he's a legitimately good quarterback. I think he's a true sophomore. We are going to see this kid for the next year or two. make a name for himself as a legitimate athletic dual threat guy. He's got some weapons, Jalen Calhoun. They have a nice little rotation at running back. I just think they're going to overwhelm Georgia Tech. I do not buy that this team is somehow better without Jeff Collins. The talent is bad. They rallied last week and had a shocker.
Well, they got dominated last week too, like by
they
like
also
most
got
of the
beat.
metrics.
Yeah, I mean they got beat in
and
the
then
box
they
score,
still
right?
won.
And you watched. I'm sure you watched that game because you're a Pitt
turned
guy.
it off.
Okay,
Turned
but
it
you
off.
saw what was happening, and I think the underlying things say that Georgia Tech really shouldn't have won that game. They're getting credit, I think, by winning that game. But usually these lines are not based on public opinion. They are based on metrics and things like that. But they're coming home. I think the reason this line hasn't ballooned because Duke -3 to me, and it's 3.5 now. I'd still take that. I am on this game. I just think Duke's way better. I think Georgia Tech is bad. They had their one shining moment last week. This is a prime letdown spot. I mean, this is, they got the monkey off their back. They had a huge win. They beat a ranked team. Now they're going to come back feeling pretty good. I just think this line should be like way closer to a touchdown. And I think Duke could just win going away. I mean, Duke's better. And their defense is quite good. I mean, they could stop the run. So are you afraid of Jeff Sims passing on you? No. Like, how is Georgia Tech going to move the ball? Their offense is truly one of the worst in the country.
Game totals at 53.5. Does that feel high for you too with those?
It does feel a little bit high. I didn't bet it, but yeah, it does feel high. I just like the Duke offense. I think they're underrated. They had a letdown at Kansas, but otherwise they played really well against, a pretty good amount of teams. I think at this point they beat Virginia, who isn't special, but it's a conference win. I just think Duke's, pretty decent. A field goal's just Georgia Tech should not be within a field goal of pretty much anybody. I don't care if they beat Pitt last week or not. Louisville at UVA. So this one, Austin, we talked about this earlier in the week. Malik Cunningham is questionable, and UVA at home looked interesting as a money line bet. I think I got it at plus 150 money line. It's all the way reversed now. So they were +3. They're now -1.5. I think that means Cunningham probably isn't playing.
They rolled him out about an hour ago.
Okay, so that's it. I mean,
and Tyon Evans and Duncan, their star safety. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care that much about the other guys, but if they don't have Malik Cunningham, like there's no way they can move the ball. I can't fathom how they can move the ball without Malik Cunningham. George, I mean, this may be. I mean, what's the under? I didn't even check the total. Like this game might be very low scoring. But Louisville's
47.5 game total. So,
yeah, I mean, this feels like it could be something like 24-13. I mean, how is Louisville going to move the ball at all? Like their backup last week against Boston College, I know he was thrown into the fire, but like he completely inept. Like he just couldn't do anything. He's got a whole week practicing with the ones. Maybe he'll surprise, but like I'd still smash UVA. Mind it laying a couple points.
I have some other injury notes here. We talked earlier about Arkansas. Coach Sam Pittman on pregame radio said that backup quarterback Cade Fortin would probably start today. So that means KJ Jefferson probably missing. Oklahoma has most of their guys suited up, including Eric Gray, Marcus Meager,
mind games.
That's
mind games there.
Yeah, I'm interested in Billy Bowman, not dressed, however. Those are kind of the big Cam Camper is expected to play.
Oh, that's nice actually for DraftKings. Not against Michigan, but Cam Camper's been kind of a sneaky, like high volume receiver for Indiana, actually.
Yeah, so that's recent news. So sorry to cut it.
No, good. That's what we need to know. Oklahoma, that's another one I'm not touching. Like, and even if Dylan Gabriel doesn't play, like that, these rivalry games, man. I mean, I remember back when I was a kid, Florida beat FSU, had no business winning the game, rotating quarterbacks every other series. Two guys, you may have heard of Doug Johnson, but you've never heard of Noah Brandeis. He had like the game of his life. I mean, these rivalry games, you just have no idea. Who knows what's been saying in the locker room at Oklahoma? I mean, they know their defense is bad, but they are going to come out today. I would not be shocked if they pitch a decent game, like hold them, not to 0. But like not to 50. It just seems like
Venables has the track record, right? He's not an idiot. Like,
I mean, everyone's just saying, like, and their defense is bad. It's been bad, but like this feels like just everyone's against us. Stiffen up, and they hold them to like 24, maybe something like that. And who knows what Oklahoma can do on offense. So I'm not I mean, rivalry games, generally speaking, I'm not going to touch because like the craziest stuff just happens in these types of games. 3 more for you. You mentioned it earlier. I heard Kent State, Miami, Ohio. It's only 5.5. I mean, Kent State is good. They're like 1-3 or something like that, 2-3. But do you know their 3 losses off the top of your head? I believe it's Oregon. It's Georgia. It might be Oregon, and another like top 25 Power 5 team. I mean, their schedule was brutal, and they fared well. They gave Georgia a game. Everyone was talking about Kent State when they played Georgia. I think they are going to potentially obliterate the MAC. Like
Oklahoma and Washington. You were in the correct
areas
of the country.
I was in the correct region. But still, Washington's now shown to be quite a good team. And we know Georgia's Georgia. And then Oklahoma, they're Oklahoma. But like with Dylan Gabriel, they're pretty good. And so Kent State's losses are to very superior teams. And they've shown well. And now they get the MAC schedule. Like I just think they're going to like win every MAC game by 10 or more. I mean, it just feels that way. Like they're a good team. We knew they're a good team. Their schedule right now, and even their numbers, their stats are going to be very, very deflated because of the schedule. So I like Kent State and catch on before, in a couple of games, if they just run through the MAC, they're going to start getting like 14-point spreads. Okay, interesting. So injury news, Will Levis not going to play, right? Is he officially out?
I haven't seen that he's officially out, but I will look real quick while you're talking.
I think they're playing those mind games. The question here is, so the line's gone down from 10 to 6 with the news that Will Levis likely seems to not going to play. Does that really matter? Are we really worried about Will Levis against South Carolina? Here's the thing. Kentucky, this is a gut check time. Will Levis or no Will Levis for Kentucky. They lost a game in the SEC West at Ole Miss, a game they were in position to potentially tie or win the game, and they did not do it, dropped one, but they dropped it to a West opponent on the road. They still have all their goals in front of them. They still control their own destiny in the East. They can still go to Atlanta. Like, this is a gut check time. You had a tough loss. Can you come home, take care of business against an inferior opponent? I think Will Levis or not, they will beat up a pretty bad South Carolina team. I mean, let's be honest. They're not good against the run. Even if they don't have Will Levis, I mean, Chris Rodriguez, get ready for 30 carries, and he should be able to take care of business. I'm not that worried. I mean, it's -6. I'm happy to take -6 even without Will Levis. And they could win going away. Like, I just think, I don't know who the backup, I know it's like Kaya Sharon or something like that. I don't even know the name. Their backup quarterback, a total wild card, and he's probably not that good. I actually went back last other night and watched some of his high school highlights. Just like, what kind of a player is he? Kind of athletic, tall and lanky, but I just don't really think it matters. I mean, they can do short little passes to Robinson, short little passes to Barry and Brown, and let them do work. He does not have to stretch the field. He does not have to make any big time throws. Simplify the game plan. I think they can still beat this team pretty easily. And then just to note, and I'd still be interested here. Ole Miss Vandy was 62 total. It's now down to 59.5. Both of these teams have played to the under in SEC play over the last few years. I think it's they're like 11-7 to the under. I also think situationally, Ole Miss, big win last week, going to Vandy, get in, get out, get home, and they have another SEC game next week, I think, against a West opponent. So, this is a road East game. Should not present much of a challenge. I just don't think they're going to, pedal to the metal, try to blow them out. This could easily be, 42-13. I mean, Ole Miss defense is pretty good. That's the calling card this year. It's not the Matt Corral teams that we've seen. They play totally different. So I still like that under, I think.
Yeah, that was 61.5, I believe, when we kicked off Better Sports this morning.
Yeah,
So,
it's
I
been
mean,
really bet
2
down.
points. Yeah. So get that. I think Chris had mentioned he would take it right about down to where it is now, about the 59.5, and then he would start to get a little worried. But you still like it? Maybe you still like it at this point?
I mean, how much is Ole Miss's defense is good. I mean, unless they just don't come to play, which is possible. Letdown spot after a big win last week, going on the road to Vandy, but like AJ Swan, Vandy, I don't know how many are they going to really give them 17 points. That means Ole Miss can put up 40. Ole Miss, even 40-17 still gets you under. Like 42-17 still gets you under. How many points is Vandy going to score? That's kind of what you need to ask yourself, I think.
Great point. And I mean, this is an Ole Miss team that wants to run the ball, so you got to figure, eating the clock there as well.
Yeah. This is not the Matt Corral, like Eli Moore offense. It's not. Dart is really not doing a whole lot. They do run the ball. They play pretty good defense.
I want to ask you real quick, since you're talking Ole Miss and maybe putting up 42 points today, Quinshon Judkins, his prize picks line here today is at 90.5 rush yards. You like the over on that?
That's tough because he could do 75, 80, and so could Evans. They could, could combine for our 200, but how's it going to be split? I just don't know. He looked like the RB1 last week, but Evans, was he like nursing something? Because the week prior, I think he came out early. So
yeah, I think he's a little banged up. Yeah,
it's a little murky. I mean, if you told me, the question is how many attempts is Judkins going to get? You said 90 something. So like if he's going to get 17 rushing attempts, I'd feel pretty good about the over. But like it could be 15-15, it could be 13-13, and then they put in backups. Like it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah. All right. Well, just a quick update, guys. Will Levis, Pete Temmel said that it's looking like they're preparing to go with the backup there, Kaya Sharon, or however you say that. And then, KJ Jefferson, as we mentioned, is probably out for today. And still no official Bryce Young news. So we'll be paying attention to that. But I am putting money on him not playing.
Yeah. I'd say if the news keeps coming out, watch that line. Like if that Kentucky line keeps coming down under 6, it doesn't really matter down till you get to 4. But like every half point is something, And so I think I just keep watching that because I'm going to probably do something with Kentucky if that keeps going down with official news.
All right. Well, that is going to do it here for us this morning, guys, on the Tailgate. Thank you to everybody who tuned in with us here over the last hour and a half. We will be back with college fantasy tonight after the late game, probably around 11:30 Eastern time. Get those bets in, guys. Get those fantasy lineups set. Good luck, everybody. I'm Austin. That's Alfred. Take it easy.